Fellow Gambians, no one doubts the existence of the coronavirus pandemic and the destruction it is causing to life and economies around the world. You will recall that on 3rd April 2020, in response to the declaration on the pandemic by the WHO, the National Assembly passed a resolution that extended for 45 days the state of public emergency, which I declared on the 26th March 2020 in accordance with Section 34(1)(a) of the 1997 Constitution. At the time, only 2 COVID-19 cases were confirmed in the Gambia, whereas 171 other countries were reporting alarming levels of infections. As at the date of my declaration, according to the WHO, the virus had killed 20,834 people globally. Today, the number has increased to over 300,000. This makes it ever more necessary for stricter measures to be taken. To respond squarely to the situation, my government adopted a number of measures through emergency regulations pursuant to the Emergency Powers Act. The objective for this line of action was to strengthen our efforts to break the chain of transmission of the virus in the country. Regulations were also laid down to ease the expected hardship that would arise from the measures and regulations. These included the Essential Commodities Emergency Powers Regulations, which seeks to protect the public from price hikes of essential commodities such as rice, sugar, flour, and cooking oil. To ensure adequate food supplies in the country, the export of essential commodities during the state of the public emergency was banned. Other regulations included restrictions on public transportation, open markets, and the closure of non-essential public places were part of the efforts to break the chain of transmission of the virus in our country. The government is very much aware that strict measures imposed during the state of the public emergency would affect lives in many ways. But handling COVID-19 is a matter of survival and saving lives first, and not about individual interests. As of today, 19 May 2020, the Gambia has 24 official confirmed cases of coronavirus infections and 1 reported death. Our immediate neighbor, Senegal, has over 2,400 cases and 25 reported deaths. Globally, over 4.5 million people have now been infected, with over 300,000 reported deaths. Based on their professional opinion, our health experts have predicted that if the right measures are not taken to successfully break the chain of transmission in the country, over 180,000 people will be infected in the Gambia. This will result in an estimated death toll of over 9,000 people. Guided by these alarming figures and the fact that the state of public emergency extended by the National Assembly expired yesterday, 18 May 2020, my government requested the National Assembly on the 16 May 2020 to extend their resolution by an order 45 days. The objective for this is to maintain, if not redouble, our efforts to combat COVID-19, which continues to pose a clear danger to our small country. Unfortunately, on the day the government's request for an extension was tabled, the National Assembly resolution failed to carry the votes required to extend the state of public emergency. 23 members of the National Assembly voted in favor of extension, while 25 members voted against it. Fellow Gambians, coronavirus knows no boundaries, and it has no respect for any person. It attacks, infects, and kills without regard to status, ethnicity, religion, political, or any other type of association. Without a state of public emergency, there will not be any emergency regulations. Without the emergency regulations, we cannot effectively fight against this deadly virus that threatens our lives and livelihoods. This is the time that we must all come together as a nation and put the interests of the country first and high above politics. This is about all of us as a people, bound by a common destiny. It is a period to show our political maturity as a democratic society capable of putting all narrow interests aside for the national interests. Fellow Gambians, the 1997 Constitution has empowered the National Assembly with the responsibility under these circumstances to support government's efforts to combat of the Constitution. We regret, however, our August has failed to act on its powers. As a result, my government protect them from this grave. It is my duty to act, and it amounts to a deadly abdication if I fail to take the right action in the face of an threat to the lives of our people. By proclamation, policy effective May 2020, the state of public emergency continues to exist in the whole of the Gambia. Since the National Assembly is no longer in the state of public emergency shall last for 21 days in accordance with Section 34(2) of the Constitution. Accordingly, I have also reissued the emergency regulations that were before the state of public emergency expired. Regulations on the 26th March 2020 and extended to the National Assembly on the 3rd of April 2020. These emergency regulations shall also continue to be enforced in line with the proclamation that I have made today. I call on the general public to appreciate that this is in the best of the whole nation, and I pray that Almighty God continues to bless as a united. I thank you for your kind attention.
He has declared a fresh state of emergency which will last for 21 days. Now what we will do, we will quickly go through the papers, and then we have a few stories there which include Salaji is on the edge today after physical planning officials stormed the town there really to demolish structures allegedly built on government reserve land there. Also, UDP leader Usainu Dabo today went to the Brikama market to condole really with victims of the fire incident last week there. The party gave the victims $230,000. We will quickly go through the papers now and see what we have on them today. We have The Point. We also have Foroya. The Point lead story saying 10 arrested, quarantined after Kaulak business trip. Gambia registers one more imported COVID-19 case. APP calls for, that's the All People's Party there, calls for prosecution of corrupt officials. 51 Banjulians arrested for not exercising social distancing there. So according to The Point, a task force comprising health personnel and different security apparatus in Farafenni in the North Bank region has arrested 7 business women and 3 men who unlawfully entered Senegal to import some vegetables. They all have been taken into quarantine, The Point has learned. So according to The Point, Uganda registers one more imported COVID-19 case. The Deputy Director of Health Promotion at the Ministry of Health, Sanjali Trawale, yesterday told press officers that the Gambia has registered another imported COVID-19 case. He added that the total number of positive cases registered in the country now stands at 24. APP calls for prosecution of corrupt officials. All People's Party has called for the arrest and prosecution of officials involved in corrupt practices at the Ministry of Health. At a time of national emergency on COVID-19, when every Gambian life is at stake, it is not criminal when some officials of government are engaged in thievery. We believe that those dishonest officials need to be arrested and prosecuted. That's according to the APP leader there, Mr. Alhaji Gumboale Toure. 51 Banjulians arrested for not observing or exercising social distancing. The Deputy Director of Health Promotion at the Ministry of Health, Sanjali Trawale, yesterday revealed to journalists in a press briefing that 51 Banjulians were arrested for not practicing social distancing. That is it for The Point. Let's see now what the Foroya newspaper is saying. Legislative proceedings deferred due to absence of the executive. Farmers receive seeds, cereal support in preparation for upcoming season. Halifa Saleh calls for sustainable architecture to fight COVID-19. Police arrest 54 boys playing football at night. I think that's also reported by The Point there. Halifa Saleh, National Assembly member for Serekunda, on Saturday, May 16th, 2020, said the Gambia government should begin to work towards having a sustainable system. Monies are being spent and they need to ensure sustainability. Funds will not continue to come. We are expecting a lot from outside and we are not collecting much from revenue. Re-exportation is down. Where are the funds going to come from? We really need to look at this system and ensure that we have a sustainable system, he said. That's according to Halifa Saleh there. Health Minister expresses frustration over country's bad system. The Minister of Health on Saturday, May 16th, 2020, told National Assembly members that the Gambia has a bad system which requires changes. Dr. Ahmad Lamin Samate, who spoke before lawmakers on Saturday, was explaining the situation of COVID-19 in the country and the reason payment of allowances to frontline workers was not done on time. Farmers receive seeds, cereal support in preparation for upcoming season. Action Aid International, the Gambia and its partners handed over 96 tons of assorted seeds of groundnut, paddy rice, millet, and maize worth over $2.6 million to 30 beneficiary communities in the North and Central Bank regions between Thursday, May 14 and Sunday, May 17, 2020. That is it for the papers. We will take a quick break and we will be right back.
All over the world, healthcare workers are in the front line of the fight against COVID-19. Here in the Gambia, they can be found in hospital wards taking care of patients, at hospital hallways cleaning away germs, at press conferences providing information to journalists, in the streets tracing people who came into contact with those who have tested positive for coronavirus. All of these people are soldiers fighting coronavirus on our behalf. The Gambia Chamber of Commerce and Industry recognizes this sacrifice and is therefore urging all of us to pay tribute to these medical workers by stopping whatever we are doing every 6 p.m. to clap for these frontline soldiers.
Thank you. So UDP leader Usainu Dabo today visited the Brikama market, the epicenter of a devastating fire sometime last week. That is last week, Tuesday. Mr. Dabo, who visited the scene, was accompanied by top UDP officials there. The UDP leader first stopped at the governor's office where they explained their mission and then proceeding to the market to hand over the sum of $230,000 there. Meanwhile, the victims of the fire incident have really been thanking UDP for the gesture there. Modiwa Ngam reports from Brikama.
UDP leader Usainu Dabo just left the Brikama market after visiting the place and giving $230,000 following last week's fire incident. The traders here had this to say.
Demaro minke mi ya lon ko beila re ko ba demaro kala kabiri nyim mas ko soto ja o kam baten lamba je me sewre mbake ay demaro min nata anin atumola kadu mo bete wondi wato bina ina ay dema akilo tenko o ala ba jola wala.
The day of this incident, people were sad, but today the atmosphere look different. I can see that everybody is happy. Not only because of what is being given them, but because of the gesture given to them by the biggest political party of the Gambia, UDP, and their party leader and the deputy and certain other executive members who came here, not surprisingly, to come and pay solidarity to them and also give a supporting hand to them.
Bimbe muntaja wale keta lawyer Usainu Dabo mbenga mulo alfa balo nyimbanko kan. Yo nying kamala ay na suno nying ay wala moy ay kalamta fana ay sula fana ay niye kuya fana anala dimbaya anala kafo mu mebe so bi tolle nata jando kana futam kana makoy roñing futandema o makoy roñing alala de maroto e fana la kato anila semboto ye mun nati nyana wol kanyanta wili keme fula wili tan sabal ye wala futandim ma jang kanat nam man woro indol mul be soto jando pour kanat na nying kaman sa la fano fanka nyami c'est na business o nyin sa lono nyami c'est muruno nyami. A
huge fire last Tuesday erupted at the Brikama market, ravaging over 20 shops. Now, the actual cause of the fire is yet to be determined and under investigation, but police have so far arrested 2 people over the incident. Modiwa reporting for the Fatu Network's News Review in Brikama.
Thank you very much. My name is Lamin Jai, and this is an exclusive interview with Mr. Mamadou Ba. He is the new Director General of Food Safety and Quality Authority of the Gambia. Mr. Ba, thank you for accepting to speak to the Fatu Network.
Thank you, Lamin. It's a pleasure.
Mr. Ba, you are the new DG of this authority, a very important authority, but an authority that has been beset by a lot of problems, a lot of noise. Your immediate past predecessor and staff of this authority did not see eye to eye. But before we get into your coming in as her replacement, first of all, when exactly were you tapped for this role?
I think it happened not too long ago. So I guess I was approached, and then so I gave consent, and and I guess it got to the highest level of authority, and I was called also at the office of the president to discuss about this role, and they highlighted some of the challenges. That was after Zainab left, so they highlighted some of the challenges, luckily. So I knew what I was walking into. So, but then what was overwhelming was the confidence that people had in me, particularly, the head of state, in identifying me, and without knowing me, for that matter, because he didn't identify me based on knowing me. He doesn't know me, and and I think that was a very competent thing to do. So it was challenging, and it was even more challenging that the government can bestow this confidence in me. But I guess might be up for the challenge. That's why I was identified. So, and I'm ready to do what it takes.
You're ready to do what? But what are you bringing to the table? This is an institution, like I said earlier, that's been beset by a lot of problems. Yeah. You have this leader versus staff row, bitter row, really. What are you bringing in differently?
Well, for me, all of that may not have been necessary in the first place. Management styles differ. People's approaches and methods differ. So, everybody has got their competence. Everybody have got their, their approach and their style. So, but I feel that, it wasn't a difficult challenge for me, because, I've been through many institutions in my past. And I've gathered wealth of experience and knowledge to manage people. I've been managing people over the past 30 years, so I know what it takes to manage people. So, and I guess in a small institution like this, 22 to 28 staff is a large number. So it's a significant number, and knowing that the institution have invested a lot of resources in them, a lot of knowledge, a lot of skills transfer in them, giving them competencies that they are ready to play certain roles in the institution to move it forward. So I felt that we may not need to lose all of that. So first of all is you have to go back and see what you can gain back. So, and I guess, that's what we did. The first thing we looked at is what can we gain back from what has happened. And of course, so I was convinced, and the board and the chairman, they are all convinced that it was the best thing to do.
It was the best thing to do. You were talking about the 28 or so sacked officials there. But then these are people that were, accused of sabotaging or undermining the leadership.
Yeah.
And they got sacked.
Yeah.
And one would say, that they were in the wrong, that is why they were sacked.
Yeah.
You came and undid what your predecessor had done.
Yes. I think, like I said, it was to the best interest of the institution, and it was to the best interest of the staff and the country at large, because, by sacking 28 people or 26 people, there's a gap that is created in the institution, a lot of vacuum that needs to be filled. So, and again, in this country, what we lack mostly competences, particularly in the science field and in the, enforcement area, and quality management area. We don't have a lot of competencies in this country. So therefore, if you have a pool of people that have already been empowered to do this, with the knowledge and skills, I think you need them in as much as they need you, but you also need them. So by undoing this, again, it was done in consultation, with the management that I found here, with the board and the board members, that were also part of this problem. So, and then, before we were able to resolve this. But if you ask me what I intend to bring to this institution, is value. I intend to add a lot of value to this institution in terms of resource development, in terms of organizational development, in terms of capacity building for the people, in terms of outreach, and in terms of regulatory mechanisms. And if you ask me, ultimately, I want to see this institution contributing to the reduction in both mortality rates due to non-communicable diseases, food-related diseases, and also morbidities, that are illnesses coming out of food infections, food contaminations, food toxins. So these are things that actually, if we achieve that, then, then definitely we'll have done a lot. So, but that is what I intend to do.
Let me bring you back to the reinstated staff there, because what we were made to understand is that their sacking was done in consultation with the Office of the Vice President.
Yes.
So did you at all consult the Office of the Vice President? Because you are talking about consultation taking place between you and the board, but the Office of the Vice President, don't you think you run into trouble there if their firing was sanctioned by the Office of the Vice President?
Well, in life, whatever you do, there are risks. That's why one of the best things that this institution does is risk assessments. And I think it's one of the best institutions when it comes to doing risk assessments. So, and like I said, this institution was established by an act. It has its laws governing it. It has its board also as part of the laws governing it. But at the same time, there are national laws that govern this country. So, of course, if I am the Director General, and of course the board chair, by virtue of his also being the chair of the board, we have to bring everything in line with the laws. Because, ask me, the procedure that was taken, the letters that were written, they didn't tally with best practice. It didn't add up. And also, when you look at termination or dismissal under Section 13 of the labor laws of the Gambia, there are conditions for it. So, and if those conditions are not met, then that means the termination is not legal. So you have to do what is lawful, and you have to do what is right.
So,
and that's just what we did.
In essence, what you were saying is that it wasn't in line with the laws, really.
No.
Their termination.
No. It wasn't in line.
So these people have now been asked to return to work. I understand it was yesterday that they were reinstated. Did you get the chance to meeting them?
Actually, I didn't ask to meet them because they asked to meet me, actually. When they came, most of them, I think over 10 to 15 of them, so requested that they wanted to meet me. And then I accorded them a meeting at the conference hall. And, yes, I did. And they expressed their emotions, they expressed their regret, and of course, and the reinstatement is also with a cautionary. It's also cautionary, because it's not only reinstatement, but they are also warned to desist from these things in the future. Because, misconduct, like what they have done is wrong. Nobody is disputing that. What they did was absolutely wrong. So, but then two wrongs cannot make a right. So this institution owes it to them because it employed them. So therefore, if the institution doesn't apply, best practices and procedures, then of course it's also wrong. So, and again, I don't want to, desist much from this, but then, if you take something and you address it in outside the line of channel of communication, that's also wrong. You understand? So, because this establishment is established by laws, And these laws are very specific, and they're not taking cue from other, established institutions. So, but then they are specific and they are empowered to do what they have to do. Because some of these institutions, as you know, they run into trouble because once you allow other people to interfere in your legal and proper running of your institution, then you are calling for trouble. You understand? People take advantage. And if you are weak, people take advantage on your weakness and then they impose certain things on you. So I guess this is something that we want to avoid in the future.
In the future.
Anything that is wrong, procedural, and in the process, against the process and against the laws that have established this institution, we would not want to do.
And then one thing, looking back, the lessons, one would really point to the fact that it's a huge number. The number of staff that are involved in this row, it's huge. And one can conclude that these are people who really frown heavily on issues like abuse of office, nepotism, corruption. Did they indicate at all their expectations when it comes to you as their new Director General?
Well, at the moment, it's too early to say what they expect from me. I think I know what is expected from me. I think my role is bigger than, just their expectations. My role is actually national expectations on me. What the nation is expecting on me, what the executive is expecting from me, what the assembly is expecting from me, they only expect me to deliver and nothing else. So I'm not one who gives excuses for not doing something. What needs to be done needs to be done. So, and I'm not also asking my staff to be giving me excuses, So assignments are assignments. But again, like I said, when you come to an institution and then you look at the policies, and they are weak policies, of course, then, it's like you are inviting a lot of challenges, even in your communication, internal communication, and, channel of reporting, appraisal, like performance appraisal, and a lot of things that you need to, tools that you need to determine, the performance rate of this institution. If they are weak, then that means the entire performance of that institution is weak. But if you have strong policies, strong strategies and documents, then you are on a sound footing. And then you empower your board, because they are your board. They are by law. They have certain powers. You empower them. And then, give them the right, respect that they deserve. And also they will now then also empower you. Because, this is teaming up. We are all in this together. Because if the board is weak, the institution will be weak. And some managers will take advantage of weak boards and then just want to do what they want to do. But if you empower the board and you have a very strong board, then your institution's management also will be empowered and they will be strong. So, it's a mutual thing and it goes together.
Now let's talk about food control or food safety and quality in the Gambia. Right. I know you are pretty new in this job, in this role, but what did you find in terms of food safety and quality in the Gambia? People say, your institution isn't doing enough in terms of controlling and checking really the kind of food that Gambians consume. Where can you tell us about where you found things in terms of the work of this authority?
Well, I must admit, there are a lot of, incredible achievements made by the former management, or the former Director General. Yes, I'm new, but I'm not naive to this institution because I knew this work from the inception, from the first Director General, Dr. Dafe Keba, and then after Zainab was his deputy, and then Zainab took over this institution. So I've been following, and then, there have been tremendous achievements made over this, span of time. Like I said, but, when we start comparing ourselves to certain countries, we are also one of the few countries that have a complete authority, food authority. In other countries, it's segmented. You have the food safety here, then you have the, quality authority there, or agency there. So you have the registration there, certification in a different, agency. So, but in the Gambia, we are unique, in the sense that we have a one-stop shop, that the Food Safety and Quality Authority is empowered to do all of this. Maybe by virtue of our size, we are a small country, maybe, but then it's a unique opportunity for the Gambia. Now, when we look at also our food quality, it's not one of the worst. There are a lot of improvements needed, because over the years, if you look at the statistics, the health statistics, you will see that there's an increasing number of non-communicable diseases, number of diabetes, number of hypertension, number of a lot of organ failures, and liver problems, perhaps related to food and or food products. Morbidities have increased. The incidence rate has really increased over the years. So now, what can we do to provide the safe food for everybody? So the ultimate aim, like I said in the beginning, is to make sure that the food that we consume is safe, is healthy, and it's actually, when you consume safe and healthy food, it adds on to your health, of course, and it adds to your productivity. So because at least the number of times that you absent from work would be minimized, would be reduced, and then of course your entire general productivity would be increased if you have safe and quality food. So therefore, I think we will work harder. Of course, we have not reached our capacity yet. I think there is a lot of work to be done in terms of inspection, and not only inspection, but in terms of enforcement. So that's why the regulatory department, had only one person, but now we are already working on empowering that department from just regulatory affairs to regulation and enforcement, because then they have all the legal mandate to enforce on those non-compliant and non-conforming institutions, so establishments. So that is very, very key. So we will be working towards that, and so that once we do, that will also impact positively on the quality of food that is produced in this country.
So what is the rate of, say, for example, the crime of a business selling expired food? Do you have those instances where a business, for example, a supermarket, would be found guilty of the crime of selling expired food to members of the public?
Yes. Again, it depends again, like on the quantity and the type of food. You understand? So these are criteria, and of course that's why I said some of them are assessed based on risk, and some of them are assessed based on hazard. You understand? So depending on the category, then it can be and the quantity, of course. Then the scale in which they do it, of course, would determine whether we will take legal action or whether we will take remedial action. And some of the remedial actions may include that we confiscate, and then destroy, and then we can even close, depending on the scale of it, and then do more investigation and even do lab testing on some of these samples, and then we see the level of severity of this case, and depending on the severity of the case, we can determine whether to prosecute or to do remedial.
And one area also that some might point at your authority and say more work needs to be done in that area has to do with the issue of informal food vendors. People sell food on the streets, but the way and manner these food are being sold leaves much to be desired, really. What is your authority doing in that area?
Well, I think they were doing inspections in the past, from what I know. And, most of them, they are certified. But it stops there, I think, you go to the world entirely, in the entire world, there are street food vendors everywhere you go in the world. Now, the way that in which we produce, present, and package our food on the street might not be the best practice. Is it devoid of contamination? Is it devoid of dust? If it's devoid of smoke, these are some of the key things that you assess, like I said, risk, hazards, and then you assess, For example, somebody who is selling food served at 80 degrees, 90 degrees, for example, I'm just giving you an example. So at least at 90 degrees, 80 degrees, you have minimal pathogenic growth in that type of temperature. So, and as a result, the food may not look appealing to you in the eye, but in actual fact, it's safe to eat. You understand? So, but then there is a lot of orientation needed in this field, particularly street food vendors. And the institution is not only to regulate them and to tell them, don't do this, you know what I mean? So, or to, take away their tables, or, I don't think that is the solution to it. So, as far as I'm concerned, the solution is to engage all of them and then make sure that you raise their awareness about food safety and food quality. So you can even encourage them, and with other partners like YEP, encouraging some of these young entrepreneurs to go into food production, work with the associations also, work with the markets, work with the councils, see how best you can find a paradigm that will actually engage these people and, so that they will move away from the unsafe, unhealthy food selling style to a very safe and healthy food selling style. You just have to change the branding, and then once you change that, a lot of things will be better. They will look healthier. They will look more appealing. So I think the street food would be much more, appealing and safer than it is now.
Do you have anything to say in the area of water? Because in the past we have seen water and drinks also problems emerging here and there. The issue of, say, a water company producing water that is not really fit for consumption.
Yes, that's why it's called quality, authority. So it's always a continuous process. You are always checking, So, and that is why I think we are trying to introduce product registration, because it will help us. So once you register a product and we know that product, and then also what I have asked them when I came in new is that let us not just stop at product registration, but let us also go to batch registration. You understand? Because once you do a batch registration, if you fail one batch, not the entire product is faulty, as we are doing now. Because once you fail a batch, it means you ask them to withdraw the entire product. You understand? That's not good for the businessman. And we need the businessman. We need the water. We need them to produce. But if you do batch registration, then when one batch fails, it's only that one batch that you recall. And, traceability also becomes easier. Because then you will know, the supplier will know where they have supplied this batch. You understand? In bulk. So that when we recall, it will be easier for them to go there and recall. So, but if it is not, when we say, okay, for example, non-water, withdraw, or recall, that means they are going to recall the entire non-product. And that's not the best practice. So, these are some of the things that we will really change. We will adopt, like I said, best practices. And, we will be working with the businessmen. Look, we are here for them. We are established because of the food production, food processing, food branding, food packaging, and everything. Even food marketing. Because you cannot market products if you don't know the regulations surrounding that food. So, we are there for all of them. So, and, I think the new style would be, we are not there as policemen, alone, but we are there as partners, as key partners, so that we support them, we, empower them, we work with them, because some of them don't even know the regulations surrounding what they are doing. So, but at least we engage them, we educate them, and then at the end of the day, we empower them. When we empower them, then they can regulate themselves. So your workload is reduced so that you can focus and drive that workload to organizational development, how to advance this organization further. So these are some of the key things that we will introduce, and and I think it will make some difference.
We are in this coronavirus crisis there. What is the role of your authority in it?
Well, actually, to my utter surprise, was that when I walked in and I said, what is our role in COVID prevention? Virtually zero. This authority has no role in any of the COVID activities, virtually.
Really?
We are only, I think, in one of the subcommittees or lower subcommittees, and what they are discussing in that subcommittee is not really relevant to food safety. So that's why I even asked the officer, don't go, stop going, because I would only, spend my energy and my staff on something that is productive, not something that is not. So if it's not related to food safety, stop going, So, and that was that. So, and, food is one of the things that is, of course, if you look at the source of entry for the COVID, is the MEM. Mouth, eye, and nose. So, and of course, food goes through the mouth. So whatever you do, you eat. And when you're eating, hygiene and everything is part of the prevention. So now the food that you eat also should be part of that, prevention mechanism. So, and the manner in which you eat. So these are all key important things. And it was completely left out in the whole national,
the response
equation.
But did you try to reach out to the government at all, to the Ministry of Health, for example, to really, state some of these things? Because, say, for example, in the restaurant industry, if someone is infected with this disease, this bug, is it safe at all for that person to come into contact with food that members of the public are eating? So, did you do any, did you take any steps at all to reach out to the government to bring some of these things to their attention?
No, I'm not particularly worried at the restaurant level, and of course I'm worried at the production level. You understand? The kitchen level, where they produce the food.
Exactly.
For example, so these are areas whereby I think like I said, when it comes to food and COVID, is significant. But then they were not involved, So, and
do you intend to reverse this at all?
Well, yes, I have plans to. But again, I have lot of things waiting for me. So it was overwhelming in some of the instances that I have to intervene and and resolve. But yes, I have plans to engage the authorities and see where this institution can add value to COVID prevention. Again, unfortunately, some of these government establishments, when you say, look, we want to be involved, we want to add value, they would think that it is monetary in nature, or they would think that you want something, or you are taking somebody's role, but that's not the case. It's by virtue of the importance and significance of this institution. That is why they should be part of it, but unfortunately, they are not. It's a missed opportunity.
It is clearly a missed opportunity, and I'm surprised and shocked, really, to find out that you are never part of this whole response there. But do you have any final words before we end this interview?
Well, I just want to say that the challenge is getting lesser and lesser, and it's not mounting, because I am very comfortable with the staff that I found here, and I was very much reassured yesterday when I met with some of the dismissed staff that have been reinstated. So I'm very much encouraged by the authorities, actually, for giving me a hand to do what is needed to be done without interference, and also for the board of directors. Really, I've put them through a lot this past this past 1 month, and I think we have series of board meetings actually. So and they have been very supportive and very understanding. Of course, everything that should be done has to be justified. We owe it to this country. I guess we owe it to the consumers, who are our biggest stakeholders, because we want a healthy and safe nation. So, and we can only get that if our food is healthy and we adopt healthy lifestyles. Then I think we will increase a lot in terms of our, life expectations, and also our productivity, because we need to be working, we need to be active, we need to be, getting there. And I like your energy.
Director General Ba,
thank you to
thank you
Network.
very much. Thank you. Thank you for granting us this interview there. So that's Mohamedou Ba, the new Director General of Food Safety and Quality Authority. Thank you. That's it for this interview. Until next time. Thank you very much. My name is